Okay, if you remember, Baby was put in charge of the little boy George, and she decided to read him a story. So she's making it up as she goes. So here we go. The king had not always been a king. Once he had been a boy who lived with his aunt in a small house on the side of a long, dark road. And behind this house there grew pear trees, hundreds of them. The pear trees had been planted by a wizard named Caliban Darsh. And at the same time that the wizard planted the pear trees, he also cast a spell so that the boy, when he looked upon a pear, was able to see the entire universe hidden there. And this, it turned out, was a very good thing for the king to be able to do. Baby felt George leaning in toward her. She turned the page. But I'm getting ahead of myself. This is a long story, she read, or pretended to read. And it must be told right. All stories involving kings and wizards and wolves are important and must be told in a certain way and in their own time. There are wolves in this story, said George. Of course, said Baby. Good, said George. Keep going. Baby read on. The words of the story came to her without her thinking too much about what they should be. It was as if she were reading a book that already existed, telling a story that she already knew. As she read, George leaned in closer and closer until finally he was leaning right up against her. He was warm. He smelled like peanut butter and construction paper. The wolves obeyed no man, of course, said Baby, but they would sit and listen to the king. He could make it so that his human words made sense to their wolf ears and their wolf hearts. Baby looked down at George. Should I keep reading? She said. Keep reading, said George. It was late afternoon, and the train was making a clickety-clackety sound as it headed through the universe. Baby kept reading. George's Aunt Gertrude was waiting for him on the platform of Flatiron. That's her, said George. There she is, he pointed. Aunt Gertrude looked worried and flustered. She looked kind. Baby's heart gave a small ping. Who would be waiting for her on the platform in Folksam? Eugenia would not be standing there. Eugenia was surely very, very angry at Baby for running away. Eugenia was terrifying when she was angry. Baby's heart gave another, different kind of ping. Goodbye, said George. He stood. He adjusted his crown. Thank you for reading me the story. I could tell that you were making it up. You could, said Baby. George nodded. I'm small, he said, but I can read. Oh, said Baby. She was strangely disappointed. I need to know what happened to the king, said George. Well, said Baby. She felt a flush of happiness, certainly. I will write to you, and I will tell you what happens next. All of it, said George. The whole story? Every bit of it, said Baby. The conductor came to escort George off the train. Baby lowered the window. She shouted out to Aunt Gertrude. She said, Hello, I'm a friend of George, and my name is Lucille Lincoln. I live at 52 Decawoo Drive in Gisford. If you write to me, I will write to George. Aunt Gertrude smiled. She waved. She said, Lucille at 52 Decawoo Drive. We will write to you. And then George was on the platform. Aunt Gertrude hugged him. She enveloped him. The train started to move. Aunt Gertrude and George waved at Baby, and Baby waved back. Goodbye, Lucille, shouted George. His golden paper crown glinted in the last of the evening light. Baby leaned back in her seat and closed her eyes. She thought about the house on Decawoo Drive and the way the sun shone on the kitchen table in the early morning, and again, from a different angle in the late afternoon. She thought about Eugenia sitting at the table. Baby's heart clenched. She wanted to go home. We'll stop there.